Hello everyone, this is Hakaym and welcome back to some more World of Warships, and today we have a replay by Murakamo. And if anyone's been on my channel for a little while, they are probably familiar with Murakamo. He's actually one of my clanmates and a really good friend of mine. And oh boy, we have a good game for you guys today. This is Murakamo in the Kurfürst, the tier 10 German battleship, playing on loop, playing domination. As you can see, there is a carrier in this match, and quite a bit battleship heavy. It's always been kind of a thing, battleship heavy. And per usual, there is Murakamo testing off his horn. Now, the Kurfürst actually has a really good, well, it's been a struggle for Murakamo to get up to the Kurfürst. Kurfürst, I believe, and future self will actually correct me, is the second battleship that Murakamo actually has received, actually grinded his way up to. His first, obviously, is the Yamato, and he's a big Yamato fan, loves the ship to death. But Kurfürst is actually, I believe, his second. I might be wrong on this. So he's been grinding up this for a while, and he reached the tier 9 Fideligros, and he despised that ship. I mean, I don't really blame him. It has its weaknesses. It's not a particularly fun ship, but he finally grounded up. I remember him just free XPing the last bit to get the Kurfürst, and a little bit of a replay bug at the moment, so do apologize about that, but it should fix itself here in a moment. So he did open up on the Habersch, trying to at least do some damage. Of course, battleship AP is fairly strong at times. It is quite annoying, especially when you're a destroyer and you get blapped by a battleship. Now, the Kurfürst, it's a hit and miss ship for quite a few people. First of all, the Kurfürst was the original secondary build battleship. Now, a lot of people actually have moved away from that and opting for a more tanky build, which I will have to say the secondaries are nice. They do hit pretty hard, but you put a lot of resources into it just to get your secondaries to be optimal, to actually be viable in the Kurfürst. So I believe Murakamo is actually a mixed build. I don't believe he actually might be fully spec. I don't remember his full spec on this, so you will have to forgive me, but he has a decent range, 11.6. I believe that is actually the max range of the secondaries, and I'm guessing he probably does have manual control of secondaries, because those look pretty darn accurate, and that's the benefit of the Kurfürst and the Bismarck and the FDG, is the fact that the secondaries are actually decent, and including with the fact that you do put a lot of resources into getting like advanced firing training, it also buffs your AA range. As you can see, the AA range for the Kurfürst is 6.2 kilometers, so that's a nice decent range. Now the AA may not be overly impressive, but that will mean that you are able to at least damage the planes incoming to attack you. Now, the unfortunate thing is that he is in a Kurfürst in a battle against a Essex, and also that was a very nice amount of damage against that Bismarck there. Almost 22,000 points of damage. Doesn't get the kill though, which is unfortunate, but one downside is, as I was pointing out, it is a carrier battle, and that is, as we actually are surprisingly going to see here in a moment, that is an S6. And S6, as of right now, obviously this is prior to any CV change, does use AP bombs, and against battleships, and very specifically against German battleships, they hit pretty darn hard and will citadel. Now, I've seen German battleships go from full to zero from a hit from those AP bombs. So they are quite devastating for German battleships, which does mean they do have to be careful when dealing with any American cruisers. That will mean that they will have to rely on their friendlies to help with AA. And at the moment, the friendly team actually has almost lemming teamed pretty strongly at A. They have A under control. Murakamo is actually starting to push towards the C cap. As you can see, the enemy team does have control of the C cap, but right now they're actually focused on taking out the carrier. Taking out the carrier is going to be very beneficial for their friendly CV, because now he's going to have air superiority and no danger from any fighters trying to shoot down his attack crafts. And there we go, enemy carrier does go down, and that's pretty big, especially for at least the carriers, is being in the right position, keeping an eye on the mini-map and trying to position to where you're able to assist close to the team, while at the exact same time not being in a area where you are going to eat a lot of damage and possibly die. So going back to Murakamo in his Kurfürst, at the moment not too terribly impressive, 75,511. At the moment the friendly team is definitely very much ahead in points, ahead in ships. The enemy team have lost their CV, which is quite devastating. But I think one major factor about the Kurfürst, more than anything else, besides it's a freaking continent being so massively large, and ooh, nice double citadel. I believe that was on the enemy Des Moines that was poking. Oh no, enemy Minotaur that was poking his head around. Now the main issue I think for a lot of people is, one, its firing angles is quite annoying, to say the very least. You do have to show a lot of broadside just to get that third turret on target. And the other major factor is that they're not terribly accurate guns. It's more, in essence, like a shotgun. Just shooting 12 shells down range, surely you're gonna hit something. Now obviously this could be slightly factored out if you went more of a gun build, more of a tank build, than focusing on your secondaries, because you do have to give up a module just to get your secondaries to fire out a little bit longer, a little bit further than they normally would. So you do have to give up your aiming system module, and at the moment the enemy team kind of has brought it back. They've taken out the friendly Akatsuki. The enemy team actually has a destroyer while the friendly team does not, and the enemy team is possibly gonna get this Missouri. Yes, he actually finally goes down. Now, another good thing about the Kurfürst is she's tanky, but she has quite a bit of superstructure, which can be quite devastating, but she does have the largest amount of health pool, and obviously she does have turtleback armor, which does mean she can't be citadeled at close range. However, she can be citadeled at further range. A little bit more trickier than most ships. It usually relies on penetrating through the deck armor, which is a bit finicky at times. Now at the moment, Murakamo actually hasn't taken a lot of damage. He's only taken about 10,000 points of damage. He still has 5 heals. He also hasn't had to use the Hydra, which is obviously the gimmick of the German battleship line, is the ability to hydro, which I find, yeah, it's kind of useful. It's really useful for the Kurfürst, as I did mention. She is quite massively large, that any advanced warning from torpedoes would prove extremely beneficial for that ship. At the moment, the enemy team actually has brought it back. They've actually are sitting on the same number of ships. Obviously, they don't have a carrier, which obviously is slightly devastating if the carrier does take his time. They actually lose the Missouri. There's actually quite a few ships all the way up north Looks like the CV is focused on those ships up north. I'm actually very curious what ship. It is a Musashi, which I don't blame the carrier for going after. The Musashi doesn't have the most amazing AA, and Murakamo really does like the follow-in for the shells there. Now, he is playing it smart. He is angling away, not showing a lot of broadside, which unfortunately it does mean that he's not able to get all of his guns off at once. I'm actually really curious, how is he not detected? I wonder if it's a replay bug right now. For some odd reason, it was showing on the minimap that the Montana was within his detection line, but he was not being detected. And unfortunately for Murakamo, he is kind of in between a rock and a hard place. He has a Montana to his right, he has a Montana to his south, plus a FDG. And at the moment, the enemy team is currently focusing quite heavily on him. And keep in mind, the friendly team actually had a ship advantage not too long ago. At the moment, the friendly team is actually currently down ships. Their Montana's fairly full health. The Musashi's still alive, the Khabarovsk is still alive, and 2 of the cruisers are still alive as well. And this could be quite terrible for Murakamo in the Kurfürst. He is doing his best, but he can only angle away to a certain point. Hopefully this Montana will show us a lot of broadside. Let's see if he's foolish enough to do that. It looks like he is turning out, which is interesting, because for whatever reason, the shells actually seem to be behaving for Murakamo. Actually gets a nice hit there, 18,000 points of damage. And this is probably a good example of what happens. What can you expect a game to where you get really good damage in? And it's pretty much comes down to the team's just slightly better than your team, but you're capable enough to actually carry the team to hopefully victory. Now, unfortunately, Murakamo has kind of come into a bit of a pickle. He does have an island just right there in front of him, and I think he's actually trying to wait for the Montana to get around the corner. And as you can see, the enemy team is focusing quite heavily on him. And wow, the friendly Bismarck goes down chasing the Musashi and the cruiser, and it looks like the Khabarovsk did actually go down, which is very beneficial because obviously no longer in play. And things are still a little bit close. The points have definitely swapped. The friendly team is down 200 points, and it looks like Murakamo is trying to get out of here as quickly as possible. Montana is on fire, should hopefully go down in a moment, maybe. There he goes down, and Murakamo is just trying to get out of here because this game is a little bit too close probably for his liking, but is still winnable. There is about 3/4 health Des Moines, half health Montana there. And one other thing I really should point out, and I know a lot of people who watch World of Warships from YouTubers see these very epic games, and they get in their heads that they really want those games, which, I mean, I don't blame them. I like those epic games. They are very much fun to do, getting those very high damaging games. But I have noticed, especially in rank this season, it's not so much as the objective, it is doing the damage, and it is quite annoying. And it really comes down to us YouTubers and Twitch streamers doing that, getting it in the heads of other players that playing the objective doesn't matter, just doing damage, and that's not really very beneficial for you. That's not beneficial for your team. You don't gain as much money and as much experience from that. Yes, granted, you do get a lot of experience from doing damage, but playing the objective is also very beneficial, and winning gets you more money and XP than obviously losing. Now the Montana should hopefully go down. I think the friendly carrier actually dropped on him. And there he goes. Finally, Montana is down. Gets a nice citadel on that Des Moines. Gets Confederate as well. But obviously he's attracted the attention of the enemy Musashi that is still out east and is wanting to get rid of this Des Moines. If you can get rid of this Des Moines, that would prove extremely beneficial, because Des Moines can be quite nasty if left alive for a while. And there we go, get a citadel on the enemy Des Moines, earn high caliber, and that is kill number 1. It's actually his very first kill of the game. He's done 233,000 points of damage, but he's not done. Oh no, he's not done. Now that is a Seattle. Seattle is obviously a light USN cruiser, and fortunately for that, Seattle gets 2 overpens and only receives 2,540 points of damage. Very annoying aspect of USN light cruisers is the fact that generally you get a lot of overpens on that ship. And nice, look at this. This salvo actually goes right between that dip and the island and gets a big ol' hit on the FDG, almost 16,000 points of damage. Now in that time frame, Murakamo has used up a majority of his heals in about 35 seconds. He's going to be able to get another heal off. That is going to be his final heal. And keep in mind, there's still the FDG and also the Musashi. The Musashi is, in all intents and purposes, a Yamato with fewer secondary guns and AA guns, but Seattle does receive a nice hit. Unfortunately, doesn't take out the enemy Seattle. That would have been nice. Move him from the board would definitely help the carrier. And at the moment, it looks like the FDG actually might be coming around the corner, so I think Murakamo is going to try to get a little bit more angled, but fortunately FDG is actually not looking at him, which is very amusing. Fortunately for Murakamo though, they've just lost their Des Moines. Gets another big hit on the FDG and immediately has begun angling. Now, I don't really know why this Seattle is actually so far back. Actually, better yet, I don't know why the FDG is pushing. At the moment, the enemy team shouldn't really be pushing. They should be sticking together, trying to fend off from the enemy carrier. Gets another big hit on the FDG, but the FDG is going to go down to the friendly Essex. Unfortunately, Murakamo, you're just not getting any kills, but you're getting pretty nice damage, 310,000 points of damage, and in about a minute and 30, the battle is almost up. And at the moment, the friendly team is ahead in points. Obviously, the downside is the enemy team has B and C, and they really need to kill something. If they don't kill something, they are going to lose, because within a minute, the enemy team is probably going to catch up. Seattle, don't know why he's doing this. Once again, this is counterintuitive. This is obviously going to be very dangerous for the Seattle, because any moment now, he gets a citadel from Murakamo, goes down, the enemy team loses points, and obviously in about 50 seconds, the friendly team is actually going to lose, as long as the enemy or friendly Des Moines doesn't do anything stupid, as such as firing as a Musashi. Granted, not likely he'll be devastating strike upon, but honestly, I probably would have held my fire. That's what I would recommend. But as long as this Musashi misses twice, Murakamo should be actually able to get a victory. One final hit on the enemy Musashi. Friendly CV's trying to go in for a drop, but I don't think there's going to be enough time, because in about 10 seconds the battle's over with, and Murakamo has won this battle with a nice damage counter, 319,033 points of damage. Not bad. So a very nice victory for Murakamo in the Kurfürst. I believe this might be his maybe third, fourth battle, something like that. Very impressive as far as damage. Did a really good job warding off against 3 battleships and a Des Moines. 553,965, 9,359 XP. He earned Confederate, Fireproof, Dreadnought, and High Caliber. I've actually seen him earn 6 medals. Those 4 plus Close Quarter Expert and First Blood. Very surprising he actually didn't earn Close Quarter Expert, because if you take a look at his secondary counter, 214 secondaries. The Bismarck, the FTG, and the Kurfürst are kind of known for getting Close Quarter Expert a lot. I believe that's actually where I got a fair amount of my flags for my secondaries, is because of the fact that the Bismarck gets a lot of secondary kills. Decent amount of citadels, 6 citadels. I only managed to kill off 2 ships. I believe quite a few were fairly low health that the friendly team actually managed to kind of snipe the kill, but decent amount of damage all the way. He was top of the team with a base XP of 3,073, which is actually very difficult to get nowadays compared to what it used to be. So very impressive there. As far as damage, you can see how much of his main guns did, but what's even more impressive was the fact that his secondaries, which did almost 27,000, and the fires they caused did around 33,000. So yeah, I really have to say, I do like the secondaries. They are a lot of fun if left alive. If you are left alive with your secondaries, you are going to really reap the damage from the enemy team. So not a bad battle for Murakamo in his Kurfürst. He has been very much enjoying it since he's received it. Maybe he'll start going down another battleship line and run into a few stinkers. I know a few battleship lines actually have some. So anyways, this is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button. You guys have a great and fantastic day. Zaijian.